What if I told you that the Santa Claus you know never existed the way you were told? That his image, his story, even his flying reindeer, hide secrets that span centuries? Get ready, because the Santa Claus you love might be far more mysterious, and perhaps even more impactful to your perception of Christmas than you can imagine. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. Get comfortable, take a deep breath, and prepare to dive into stories full of mystery and curiosities about Santa Claus. Today we're going to uncover details that often go unnoticed. Hidden layers that make the jolly old man one of the most fascinating and enigmatic figures of Christmas. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear could change forever the way you look at Christmas. It all begins in the 4th century in ancient Turkey with a bishop named Saint Nicholas. He didn't have a sleigh nor a long white beard, but he was known for his generosity. It is said he placed coins in children's shoes while they slept and helped poor families anonymously. Imagine that. A benevolent figure, secretive, spreading gifts at night. We can already see the first traces of what would become modern Santa Claus. But the story doesn't end there. In the Nordic countries, long before Christian Christmas, there was the god Odin. During the winter solstice, he would fly across the sky in his chariot pulled by reindeer. People believed that during this period, the world was closer to magic, and that reindeer could cross worlds. Homes were decorated with pine trees and green branches, symbolizing life that resists the cold. Small offerings were left to ensure protection and prosperity. Here we already see the first hints of the famous flying reindeer. Speaking of the reindeer, their symbolism is much deeper than it seems. They represent strength, fertility, resilience, and connection to the supernatural. In some Nordic cultures, there are records of winter rituals where visions of reindeer were associated with mystical experiences and even collective hallucinations caused by psychoactive plants. The idea of animals flying out of the darkness, crossing the sky, is not just childlike fantasy. It is an ancient myth that evolved over centuries. As these traditions spread through Europe and later to America, the reindeer were incorporated into Santa Claus as a magical element, allowing him to travel the world in a single night. They became the perfect symbol of mobility, magic, and mystery. And the sleigh pulled by these creatures reinforces the idea of crossing worlds, linking everyday life to fantasy. The presence of reindeer in the modern myth is no accident. It is carefully crafted to trigger feelings of wonder and hope. In Germany and other parts of Europe, there were figures called Kris Kringle or Christkindl. They would deliver gifts during winter, always surrounded by mystery. Each tradition had different nuances, some magical, others spiritual. When European immigrants arrived in America, they brought these stories. And little by little, Santa Claus began to take the shape we know today. But here is the first big provocation. Nothing we see today arose naturally. Every detail of Santa Claus has been shaped by centuries of history, culture, and adaptation. And did you know that not all stories about Santa Claus are sweet and cheerful? In some European traditions, there are dark versions of the jolly old man, beings who punish naughty children, who don't bring gifts, but rather harsh lessons or even punishment. In Austria, for example, there is Krampus, a demonic creature that accompanies Saint Nicholas. While the bishop gives gifts, Krampus punishes the misbehaving. Imagine, the same Christmas night that for many is magic and joy could also be a moment of fear and vigilance. In Germany and Scandinavian countries, there were also figures known as Belsnickel, a man dressed in animal fur with a dirty face and intimidating gaze who visited homes before Christmas. He carried a whip or a sack, and his purpose was to punish naughty children. But at the same time, reward the well-behaved. These ancient traditions show that the Santa Claus myth has always had a duality, light and shadow, reward and punishment, magic and fear. Interestingly, these dark versions eventually disappeared or softened, giving way to the jolly Santa Claus we know today. But they remain alive in legends and folk tales, reminding us that behind every myth, there is always a hidden side, a symbolism of authority, vigilance, and morality that spans generations. Modern Santa Claus wears red, white, and gold. He seems innocent, but these colors carry powerful meanings. Red awakens energy, passion, and desire. It activates areas of the brain linked to action and attention. White represents purity, but also vigilance and moral authority. It's as if the jolly man is always watching. Gold symbolizes prosperity and the divine. It is in all the details of luxury and Christmas magic. Each color chosen evokes emotion, nostalgia, and even a subtle impulse to consume. Not a coincidence. Have you ever thought about why Santa Claus makes lists? Who has been good and who has been bad? It's not just for fun. It's an ancient method of teaching behavioral patterns, reward and punishment. From an early age, children learn to obey, under the watchful eye of a figure that seems loving, but also controlling, subtle emotional manipulation. Fun, safe, but profoundly effective. Santa Claus also activates powerful archetypes. The caregiver, the generous hero, the idealized paternal figure. He connects adults and children to feelings of belonging, safety, and love. But the secret is that all this emotional energy is channeled through symbols that span centuries. Every detail, every gesture is made for you to feel and to believe. In the 1930s, Coca-Cola consolidated the Santa Claus image we know today. Fat, cheerful, wearing red and white. Before that, he could appear in green, blue, or brown. Every detail of his appearance was carefully designed to create emotional impact and reinforce the global myth. But there is an even more interesting detail. At the time, Coca-Cola needed to boost sales during the colder months. They realized that winter was a period when few people drank soda. So they had the idea of associating the product with a warm, generous, familiar figure, someone who appeared exactly in the coldest time of the year. Santa Claus became the perfect face for this strategy. He warmed hearts, evoked emotions, and made people consume the brand almost unconsciously. The campaign was so successful that it solidified the image of the jolly man. Red and white clothes, a generous smile, a round belly, and an aura of magic and generosity. This version of Santa Claus crossed borders and spread worldwide, reinforcing not only the myth, but also a model of consumption tied to Christmas. Some theorists claim that Santa Claus is not just a children's story. He functions as a tool of collective emotional control. By creating predictable behavioral patterns, he generates consumption, tradition, and even synchronized emotional expectations. Imagine millions of people around the world, feeling the same excitement, following the same rituals, buying the same products, all almost unconsciously. And the North Pole? It was never a historical place, but its location reinforces magic and mystical distance. Many traditions were reinvented or erased over time, but the Santa Claus myth persisted, becoming a global symbol of magic, consumption, and emotion. Did you know that some cultures have completely different versions of Santa Claus? In the Netherlands, for example, there is Sinterklaas, who arrives by boat rather than by sleigh. He also comes with helpers who can punish disobedient children. This variation shows how the myth adapts to different cultural contexts, and how Santa Claus is, in fact, a reflection of local traditions. Another curious detail is that Santa Claus never had a defined age. In some stories, he is immortal. In others, he ages over time. This ambiguity helps keep him always present, eternal, almost like a living myth that adapts to each generation. Furthermore, Santa Claus also carries a symbolic connection to light. At the peak of winter, he appears amid the darkness, distributing gifts, joy, and hope. It is an ancient metaphor of the triumph of light over darkness, a powerful symbol that spans history. Even if most people never notice it, Santa Claus is much more than a simple symbol of gifts. He is history, legend, symbolism, and mystery, capable of touching deep emotions and influencing generations. If you were surprised by these secrets, click like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. In the next episode of Christmas Secrets, we will reveal even more obscure curiosities about Christmas. And if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments. I'll read them one by one. Get ready, because the secrets of Christmas are only beginning.